Sairam, let's start the study circle with 3 Om. 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 Dear Swami, we are so grateful to be able to meet here together in your presence today. While we are here together studying your word in your Bhagavatha Vahini, we ask that you open our ears and hearts to whatever it is you want us to learn. Please speak through each one of us and help us progress in our spiritual journey. Jai Sai Ram. Sai Ram, thank you all for being here today. And we are going to, before then, I think let's just make sure all our cell phones are muted, Sai Ram, just to avoid any ringing. And just make sure that we are talking from our heart and try to leave our egos outside, which is almost impossible. I realize that, but if we can, it'll help us to learn faster and I think absorb more. So with that, I didn't complete the review of the last session, but we did talk about Dharma and we completed the discourse on Dharma that Swami had given. This is only one of the few discourses that we will be talking about throughout the Bhagavat Vahini, because Dharma comes at various stages in various ways. So we did talk about the qualities that one has to imbibe to actually be able to follow Dharma in our life today. And we actually addressed many things from fear to attachment to, I think, even truth and other values that are actually related to following the Dharma. Again, I did not have the time this week to kind of go back and listen to the whole thing, but this is what I remember. So if anyone has anything to add from for last week, we can definitely start here.
Saira. I was not here last 2 weeks, but I don't know if you talked about in Dharma, Swadharma, that is one's duty, what is individual duty. So in ancient scriptures, it has described there are 4 types. One is the Ashrama Dharma, and Varna Dharma, and Visesha Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma, and Sadharana Dharma. I don't know if you talked about it, but I can. Did you?
We didn't talk about it because we didn't come to Swadharma at all. We were only talking about Dharma in terms of how will you, what qualities,
Right.
because to do that on a daily
Right.
life.
So in each one of them, it describes that individual Dharma, how it is. Maybe it can be a little bit helpful to us. And the Ashrama Dharma is like a person who is a student right now, or somebody working. That could change. A householder can become a sannyasi, the student might get a job. So it is a temporary one, the station in your life. And then this Varna Dharma is, in those days, they had those different Varnas. But in modern time, it's not going to help, or it's not practiced. So in that case, then the profession you are doing, whatever it might be, engineer, doctor, teacher, nurse, so that is your Dharma. So whatever is in that profession that you have to adhere, you do it that way. Okay. So that is your Varna Dharma now. The Varnashrama Dharma is both. One could be both. Like Arjuna was a householder, and he was a warrior also. He was a king, and his Dharma was to go fight and protect the kingdom and people. So he was doing that. Okay. So, and then Visesha Dharma is something we have temporarily right now, that the situations, like for example, mother or father, that the child is born, you have extra duty. So you have to take care of the child, kind of a thing. And then our parents, some of us take care of the parents. That is a Visesha Dharma. So you have allotted some kind of a special activity at your life at some point. Then we have to do it. We cannot get away from it. We shouldn't get away from it, because we have to do it sincerely and correctly. So that helps towards the spiritual thing. And
Absolutely.
one more is Sadharana Dharma is the regular
That is what we
values,
talked about.
right? The
So,
values
yeah,
of truth and
right.
right action. All. So the Sadharana Dharma we practice no matter what in all walks of life. But finally, the conclusion is whatever you do, which takes you towards the spiritual path, towards God, that is the Dharma that you should do. Whatever takes you away from God, away from the spiritual growth, that is adharma. So that way we can think about it that way. What are the
Yes.
things, duties I perform at this stage in my life, at this point?
Right.
That might be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah. So today I was going to move to chapter 9, and we will start our discussion with that. So we will start with the okay, let me. Okay, yes, chapter 8. Actually, we did not do. We did takeaways last time. Actually, we discussed a little bit. We have not completed the takeaways. Of course, the chapter 8, the story continued into how Vidura kind of convinced Dhritarashtra to move away from all these comforts, and then how basically how Dhritarashtra's life ended. That's where chapter 8 was. As far as takeaways, I think our discourse on dharma was related to what is your dharma in a particular way, in a particular amount of, I don't know, time, I think, where you are in your life at that time, and how we are going to manage that. And we actually talked a lot about sadharana dharma. That's how we focused on just on everyday life, what we need to do and how we are going to take that into stride and have some lessons learned from there. So with that, we can move to chapter 9. So give me a minute. I hope this starts out okay. I didn't understand what happened there. Okay, thank you.
I think the speaker is set to the projector.
Oh.
It's going through the HDMI
Oh.
instead of the speaker, external speakers.
How do I go to system? That's the
Sound.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to the Focusrite USB only.
But it's playing here. It's playing in the projector. It's playing in the projector.
Now it's coming, I think.
Now it's.
No, it's not that. This has to say. Hold on.
Or maybe in the Zoom you may have to change. I don't
No,
know.
no. Zoom has nothing to do.
Okay.
Let me go to this. Sorry, all. I did not. Technical difficulties that I don't really know.
Right now.
Give me 1 second.
Of the departure of his uncle and aunt, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, out of unbearable pain, which was like a needle thrust underneath the nails. Wherever he turned, he began seeing bad omens in his kingdom. He noted in every act around him the taint of falsehood, cruelty, and confused his vision. As a result, an inexplicable anguish possessed him. His face became pale with apprehension. It was marked by constant agitation and anxiety. Seeing this, and becoming agitated themselves, the brothers, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadeva, approached their eldest and expressed their eagerness to delve into the reasons for his strange sadness. They stood before him with folded hands and inquired, Lord, day by day we find our countenance rendered dimmer and dimmer. You seem sunk in unfathomable agony, sinking deeper and deeper with every passing hour. You have become too weak to stand firm. If any of us has caused you pain, please tell us. We shall guard ourselves against repetition, and we pray we may be pardoned. If all this is due to something else, you have only to tell us about it. We shall, at the cost of our very lives, set it right and restore your mind. When you have such heroes, obedient as we are, to correct anyone, however high and mighty, it is not proper for you to vent to grief. Inform us the reason and command us what to do. They prayed. Dharmaraja replied, What can I tell you, dear brothers? I see ominous things all around, from the homes of ordinary citizens to the hermitages of the saints and sages. Wherever my eye falls, I see only inauspicious, ill fortune, and the negation of joy. I argued within myself that this was only the result of my warped imagination, and I tried my best to muster up courage and confidence. I did not like to fall a prey to my fears, but I could not succeed. Recollecting the scenes made my fear even more fearsome. To aggravate the sadness, I saw some scenes that are contrary to established morals and dharma. Not only did they come to my actual notice, the courts of justice in this kingdom have been receiving petitions and pleas regarding wrongs, injustices, iniquities, and misdeeds which make me grieve deeply. I saw some situations which were even more worse. Last evening, when I was returning after a tour of the kingdom, I saw a mother cow refusing to nurse and feed her newborn calf. This is quite strange and contrary to nature. I saw some women wantonly loitering in the bazaar. I hoped that they would rush into their homes when they saw me, but no, it did not happen so. They had no reverence for authority. They went on as if I was not in the picture. They continued to talk without restraint to the menfolk. I saw all this with my own eyes, so I simply proceeded further from that horrid place. Very near the Rajya Bhavan, when I was about to enter it, I perceived a Brahmin selling milk and curds. I saw people emerging out of their houses and closing the doors behind them. I found fixing them some iron lump to the doors so that they may not be opened. My mind was very much concerned with all these tragic transformations. I tried to forget this state of affairs, and so started doing the evening rituals, the sacred rite of offering oblations to the consecrated fire, and I shall tell you what happened. The fire could not be lit, however hard I tried. Oh, what a calamity it was! My fears that these events foreboded some great catastrophe is fed by other happenings too. They are confirming my premonitions every minute. I find myself too weak to overcome them. Perhaps the Kali era has begun, or is about to begin, I believe. For how else are we to explain such facts as this? A wife has quarreled with her husband and is arguing before the judge in court that she should be permitted to go to her parents, leaving him to himself. How am I to face such a plea in court that she should be permitted to dissolve the marriage and leave for her parents' home, deserting her husband? A petition from such a wife was admitted yesterday in the court of justice. How am I to ignore such admonitions? Why go on recounting these occurrences? Yesterday, the horses in the royal stables started weeping. Did you hear? They were shedding copious tears. Sahadeva tried to investigate the causes of the deep sorrow, but he could not discover why, and he was struck with wonder and consternation. These are indications of wholesome destruction, not of any minor danger or small evil. Dharmaraja placed his chin on his upright arm and rested a while in deep thought. Bhima did not give way to despair. He laughed a scornful laugh and began. Well, the incidents and events that you have mentioned might have happened. I do not deny them, but how can they bring disaster to us? Why should we give up all hope? All these abnormalities can be set right by administrative measures and the enforcement. It is really surprising that you are so worried about these small matters that can be corrected by us. Or is it the imminent breaking out of another war that you fear? Perhaps you are anxious to avoid the ravages that the arrival of war might bring about. That contingency is impossible, for all our foes have been exterminated with their kith and kin. Only we five are left, and we have to seek for friends and foes only among ourselves. Rivalry will not break out among us, even in our dreams. Then what agitates you? I cannot understand why you are afflicted. People will laugh at you when you take these little things to heart and lose peace of mind. Bhima said this, and changing his mighty mace from the right hand to the left, he laughed a laugh which was half a jeer. For this, Dharmaraja replied, I have the same discrimination and intelligence that you have in these matters, nor have I an iota of dread that enemies will overpower us. Have we not defeated the renowned warriors, Bhishma, Drona, and the rest who could singly, with but one arrow, destroy the three worlds? What can any foe do to us? And what can agitate us, who are bearing even the direst calamities with fortitude? How can any difference arise between us, who stood so firm in the days of distress? Perhaps you suspect that I am afraid of anything happening to me personally. No, I shall never be agitated by anything that might happen to me, for this body is a bubble upon the waters. It is a composite of the five elements waiting to be dissolved back into its components. The dissolution might happen some day. The body is bound to fail, to fall, to fester, to be reduced to ash and mud. I do not pay heed to its fate. My only worry is of one particular matter. I shall disclose it to you without any attempt to conceal the seriousness. Listen. It is now more or less 7 months since our brother Arjuna left for Dwaraka. Yet, we have not heard anything about the welfare and well-being of the Lord of Dwaraka. He has not sent any messenger or message regarding at least his reaching Dwaraka. Of course, I am not worried in the least about Arjuna and his reaching or not reaching Dwaraka. I know no foe can stand up against him. Moreover, for anything unpleasant had happened to him, certainly Sri Krishna would have sent the information to us. Of this there is no doubt. So I am confident that there is no reason to be nervous about him. Let me confess that it is about the Lord himself that I am feeling worried. With every passing minute, anxiety is increasing. My heart is suffering unbearable agony. I am overwhelmed by the fear that the Lord may leave this world and resume his permanent abode. What greater reason can there be for sorrow? If this catastrophe has actually come about, I shall not continue to rule over this land, widowed by the disappearance of the master. For us Pandavas, this Vasudeva was all of 5 vital heirs put together. When he departs, we are but corpses, devoid of vitality. If the Lord is upon the earth, such ominous signs dare not reveal themselves. Injustice and iniquity can have free play only when he is absent. I have no doubt about this. My conscience is clear about it. Something tells me that this is the truth. When Dharmaraja asserted this, the brothers fell into the depth of grief. They lost all trace of courage. Bhima was the first who recovered sufficiently to speak. He mustered some courage in spite of the wave of sadness that smothered him. He said, For the reason that Arjuna has not returned, or that we have not heard from him, you should not picture such a dire calamity and start imagining catastrophe. There must be some other reason for Arjuna's silence, or else Krishna himself might have neglected to inform us. Let us wait, seek further light. Let us not yield to the fantasies that a nervous mind might weave. Let us not clothe them with the vesture of truth. I am encouraged to speak like this, for one's nervousness is often capable of shaping such fears. But Dharmaraja was in no mood to accept this. He replied, "Whatever you say, however skillful you argue, I feel that my interpretation is correct. Or else, how can such an idea arise in my mind? My left shoulder is registering a shiver, you see. This is a sign confirming my fear that this has actually happened. You know, it is a bad omen if the left shoulder shivers for men and the right for the women. Now, this thing has taken place in my body, and it is a bad omen. Not merely the shoulder, the entire being, mind, body, intelligence, all are in a shiver. My eyes grow dim and I am fast losing vision. I see the world as an orphan having been deprived of its guardian and the Lord. I have lost the faculty of hearing. My legs are shaking helplessly. My limbs have been petrified. They have no life in them. What greater proof do you need to assert that the Lord has left? Believe me, dear brothers, even if you do not, facts will not change. The earth is shaking under the feet. Do you not hear the airy noises emanating from the agonized heart of the earth? Tanks and lakes are shaken into waves. The sky, air, fire and waters and the earth are all mourning their fate, for they have lost their master. How many more evidences do we need to get convinced? In fact, news came some days back of showers of blood that rained in some parts of our kingdom. Hearing these words, streams of tears coursed down the cheeks of Nakula and Sahadeva. Even as they stood before their brother, their hearts were struck with pain. They couldn't stand, for their legs failed them.
Okay. Sairam, I think we can take the mic from there so everyone can talk. So of course, as you see, this chapter kind of has a eerie connotation to this, but so my first thought was talking about Dharmaraja's perception of bad omens, right? So Dharmaraja's perceptions of bad omens raises questions about the significance of intuition and signs in our lives, etc. So today, how can we differentiate between, genuine, if there is something called a genuine intuition, and fear-based thoughts? I mean, I think we all turn towards the negative just like he did, and I also felt that his vivid description of his physical emotional symptoms, all of that is, I mean, makes sense when my grandmother says it. It's just that Dharmaraja, he already knows that it's body, mind, the complexities of it, who he is. But how can he also, fall into the same category when it came to this kind of omens and how he started believing in them? So how can we manage our thoughts to maintain a balanced perspective? This is just a few thoughts of mine that I've put together. Doesn't mean that we have to stick to this. So if anyone has anything to add here, that would be great, but we can start the discussion as well.
Sairam, let me start the discussion then.
Yeah.
So one thing is whenever there is uncertainty in life, it drives us to all these questions because they are not heard from Arjuna, and something tells him maybe it's not Arjuna, it is Lord Krishna himself. So, and then he sees all these signs going on, and they may be indicators, may not be indicators, but the mind will fix on them and do this. So I'm just reminded of one of my bosses. His wife was diagnosed with cancer, and she's no more now. But just before that, he was very anxious, in the meetings because they didn't know what to do, and finally, because the treatments are uncertain, and finally they went to some hospital in New York, and then they came back and said, "This is the treatment plan we are going to have," and they were both comfortable with that. And the fact is, nothing changed the fact that she a few days later she passed, but the fact that things could be worked out, that there is a path forward, that helped for them to handle the situation. So I think many of the time, we have to prepare for the worst.
Mm.
We expect the worst and prepare for the worst,
Right.
and hopefully it'll. So I think that's the only lesson I can learn from you, Saira.
Saira.
Sairam, I think Dharmaraja displays a typical human approach here, even though he says that it's just this body is just about, he's not bothered about himself, but I think he's bothered about the entire world. What will happen to the world when the Lord leaves? I mean, that is his biggest concern.
Right.
That is why it is for a greater thing that he is worried about, not for him or the Pandavas like Arjuna. So I think, but still he displays the human approach to the way to handle that, even if it were the fact, even if he comes. So let's say he gets to hear that Lord Krishna has left, then to display that kind of an emotional attachment to the Lord is probably because the Advaita, we know all that. We don't know how much Dharmaraja believed or in that time of the age.
Right.
We don't know all that. We don't know all that.
But we can talk about what we can do today.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I think we should focus on.
That is the thing, right?
Yeah.
How can we differentiate between intuition and fear-based thought? Because I think fear-based thought creeps in pretty fast and takes over that, in our lives. Yeah, please go ahead, Uma.
No, Saira. My first thought listening to the story that Dharmaraja should come to our malls here, our Indian malls, and see the ladies. How times have changed. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah. Dharmaraja is, I think in Swami's message once he said, Krishna chose Arjuna so he can think clearly and see. But Dharmaraja always, he complains and he laments about things have happened. In this,
Correct.
fully he is whining and complaining, and though he says Lord Krishna, but he is afraid for Lord Krishna. Why? So Krishna is Lord, then as a human being, Dharmaraja, is he going to save him? I don't know. But all these are like the human characters, the part of Dharmaraja. But between genuine intuition
And fear.
with my experience only I can talk about, that intuition is something that you never thought of before. It is not based on your knowledge or anything. Subconsciously, somehow it pops up. And then if I try to ignore it, it keeps coming back once, twice, thrice. And then you say, okay, is there something in it? Let me look into it. So if I can act on it and the results are very different than what I have thought, and the solution is very different, but it was a better one than using my intellect. Okay. Fear-based usually comes from our stored memories, the things we have read, the things we have seen. So we think this is what happened once, so this is what will happen again. There is one story, this in the war in Vietnam, it's a true story, that this person, and he is standing with his fellow soldier. He saw this person coming with two huge guns, and he Immediately, his instinct was to shoot him. Okay, this is the battlefield. But then his friend touched him on the shoulder and said, "Don't do that." So he paused for a minute. It was just a 12-year-old boy coming with two long sticks on his shoulder, a shepherd. So this was happened, okay? And then this thought, this sin haunted him for many years. I could have shot that young man, young child, practically. So he was thinking, why did I think that was a gun a man carried? He went to the psychiatrist and doctors, and they said, see, you are a soldier. You are in the battlefield. So what you see is the gun and fight and all that. That is the thing stored in your brain. The brain is sitting in a dark cave. Okay. See, like that, whatever we see and read and observe, it's stored. And then when you see something similar to a gun, the immediate thought is, that's the gun, somebody coming, going to kill me, the instinct. This thing is coming, fear-based. So you try to shoot. So he went through a lot of therapy, but this is how sometimes whatever happened in the past, we associate with what is happening now. It may not be the real thing, but we react in that way.
Right.
Sairam, I just want to correlate what Bhavani said. We have to think about in the present context, in the day-to-day life, how we feel, what happens, and why it happens. So my perspective is whatever happens in your life is due to His will. And nevertheless, at the end of the day, you'll find whatever happened is good for you, for good reasons. See, my mother traveled from India to Connecticut, to my brother's place. She knew that she is going to meet her fate. She knew that. She never went for any vitals check or something because she wanted to be here to be with all of us. And she was here. And she was very happy when she was there. She met all of us. And when she passed away, she had no regret. Because she knew if she would have been that fear, she would never traveled. It was not for her to travel such a long distance when she has been going through so many things. My sister used to say, Mom, get your things done, get your vitals done here. She refused. She knew that this is going to be blocking me to come here. So why fear when I'm here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sairam, I just wanted to add a couple of points to
Yeah.
this. Actually, Dharmaraja, again, I think we talked about this one
Yeah.
more time. In human birth, you cannot escape Maya, the effect of Maya. Okay. And this Shirdi Baba also says, actually, it was in chapter 13.
Yes.
He says, Maya has not I could not escape Maya. Himself, he says that
Correct.
in this birth. And the only way to diminish its effect or is to fully have faith in him, trust in him.
So-
When there is faith, there is no fear.
Correct.
He said the best way to deal with this for the human birth is with utmost devotion to the Lord. Pull all your effort into that and put your faith into me, right? That's one way. He actually said that.
Right.
So that's one way to approach this in this day and thing is, so your thoughts will come. Yeah, sometimes they're intuitions, and sometimes you don't know if it is coming from your past experience. Like Uma said, whatever it may be, you will have two choices: act or not act. You will pick something there because it's like one will say do it, the other thought will say don't do it, or one, right? Every
Yeah,
time
okay.
it comes to two choices.
Okay.
So you'll pick one choice,
Okay.
right? The way I do it is I just don't, whatever I feel at the moment, I say to the Lord, Baba, it's up to you. I'm going to do this. Whatever happens, happens after that. You, like you say, you do your thing and you forget about the result, right?
Right. Mhm.
That's the best you can do. Have your faith, lose your fear, and whatever happens, happens.
But the thought keeps going. Yes, please go ahead, Manojji.
So I do agree with Shobhaji 200%. I would take it a step forward. Intuitions are just no coincidences, number one. It depends on your spiritual elevation. If you stay connected with Him, these are just so much true. We have seen it ourselves with our Gurujis. If you are connected with him most of the times. This is direct messages. So Dharmaja is not a stupid person getting all these intuitions.
Right.
He was so connected. He could relate sitting here in that place where they used to live,
Hastinapur.
Hastinapur, and getting all those messages, unless he had some secret services, he was getting all those messages, what is happening in Dwarka. How could he get that? How could he get all those things and correlated it to one symbol that Krishna has left? So he's getting
No,
all
he
those
is
thoughts.
actually just looking at the situation and thinking Krishna
Yeah,
is gone
so
because
why
there
is
is
he just
something that
getting all those thoughts collectively? No one else is getting all those thoughts
Right.
collectively and reaching to a decision. This is what is happening. And these things are not happening by chance only. All these things are happening, and he is smart enough to calculate this. This is what it is. See, intuition and fear do not elevate from a different department of the body. It's the same mind which is producing the fears and intuitions, and this is from the same center they are coming out from.
Okay.
So, if you stay connected, all your thoughts would be so concentrated and focused, they will not lead you anywhere else. Like Shobhaji mentioned, that she decides to pick up one of the two things and then ask Baba. So, she's already been influenced by Baba to pick up that right thing. And then she's giving him respect. Okay, Baba, you decided now. It's up to you. But it's actually the reverse thing. Baba has already given that
Thought.
positive thought to elevate about the other thought,
Yeah.
and now telling her to surrender it to me. So what she is doing is actually a reverse thing. That's what is happening. We already get that good thought already, and then we surrender it to Baba. That good thought, who gave you that good thought? That was his production only.
Right, right.
So it's all your connection. By devotion, by spiritual elevation, you do get connected, and you will get only those thoughts which mean something.
Right. Absolutely. So that's a great point to take away, right? For the books, I'm just saying that to be connected so that you can actually reach a level of that genuine intuition. It's not it. I mean, the Dharmaraja is not telling us a sob story. Basically, he's feeling all of that. Okay, and then to come back to how can we manage our thoughts to maintain a balanced perspective? I think Manojji answered that question. Connection within to the divine would actually help us do that. Anyone have anything to add? Otherwise, we can move on. So in this, the reason that I brought up this is because Dharmaraja sees all these negatives that are going around in the world, right? Now he's observing. So what is Krishna's role as a divine protector? Obviously he's protected them for this long, but he was not really close by to them. After Kurukshetra, I don't think he came. I mean, I don't know about how often they actually, met or what it is, but how does that kind of, his divine guidance without being present?
Yeah, so Krishna will never be with us physically all the time. It's all his divine messages in the form of gurus and scriptures and Bhagavad Gita. He has shown the way of life before he left in the form of Gita. So why do we always have to expect that they come physically in front of us to hold our hand and see? So he has given us the gurus and scriptures and given us the teachings to follow when he's not physically there. So when he was physically there also, he had to go through all those things. And all.
But
all those
also not everyone believed him to that extent.
That's why
Like
he
the
had to say
Pandavas
Gita.
did.
That's why he had to give the lesson of Gita, because so Gita will be strong enough for people for the coming generations to follow. I think that answers that part.
That Shankaraji, you have anything to add? Please turn on the mic.
So I do want to say this situation kind of reminds us of 2011, where
Yeah.
our own Swami was in the hospital. And so, we were all feeling some of the the things that we are hearing here. So now we know, 13 years later, Swami is still here. So,
Yes.
So I think, like Shobhaji said, and what Manoj said, eventually you will, as long as we put that faith that the Lord is going to be guiding you, whether He is in physical form or not.
Mhm.
I think that's probably what. So I think we have all faced it in a different way. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah. Thank you. So, can these signs and omens and intuitions that we call serve as a spiritual guide? How does cultivating inner awareness help us? I think to an extent, I think Manojji did say that, but yeah, please go ahead.
No, I think that, see, the point there about the spiritual guides, we always look for it. For example, when we are here, when a flower falls, we interpret that.
Yeah.
So it's the faith that we have. And I think that faith, even here, Dharmaraja's faith is the one that is driving him to look at all these signs to see the connection with the Lord. So I think that is, if we have, as Manoj said, if we have that level of spiritual, whatever you call that, so if we are able to have that faith, we will see that connection, and the connection will be real. So because he knows, for example, Swami is in that one of the episode that I'm forgetting his name. He narrates his mother, a Swami student. His mother is very worried about when he was growing up, and so Swami comes to her in her dream and says, "Your children are my children."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then he comes physically appears in front of her one time and then tells her that your children are my children. And then still she's worried. And then he's in the Puttaparthi, and then Swami asks him to call his parents. So he calls his parents, and then at that time, Swami says, I came and told you in your dream, and I came and told you physically. Now I am telling you in my presence here that I will take care of your children. Your children are my children. So that signs that the extent of faith that we have is the one that he also reciprocates in that same level. So if we are not this one, if we are going to say these are all coincidences, it will be coincidences. If we are seeing that connection, he will make that connection reflect that. That's
Yeah,
what I
but when we say sorry, Jay bhai, please go ahead. No, I'm just saying that once the fear sets in, you forget the connection to the Lord. That is the problem there. It is not that you don't have it. It is when that fear has crept in. And in this chapter, I felt Dharmaraja had that fear crept in. So that's why that question about what it is. Would you
Sarah?
like to say?
So I'll focus more on the intuition.
Yeah.
So fear and intuition both are two different items technically. So I'll say Dharmaraja's intuition, that what it says about all these signs that what is observing or feeling, whatever is very genuine. So how can you say that is so confidently? So if you have seen it in the nature, humans are evolved so much, they depend on the physical senses more than anything else when compared to other living things on earth. And people who live in the forests, especially if you go to deep forest areas, those human beings are way better than sensing the things even before they see anything, right? So this is all connected to ether. That's what we call spiritually ether connection. So what happens here, the Dharmaraja those days, people were not this dependent on all these physical things and distracted things. They were more sensitive to the nature, basically.
Right.
So, for example, if you look at these calamities before they happen, all these birds and these snakes, rats, all this will that sense 3-4 days before that happens. And recently, one incident came in the paper. There 500 acres of land, not the forest was completely The trees, all the trees in that 500 acres were completely flattened all of a sudden because of latest weather change in Andhra. And people went to verify what happened, and they want to identify how much damage happened. And surprisingly, there was no single evidence of anything that is living in that area, including any kind of wild animals or wildlife. Nothing was destroyed. They identified all these things were left 3 days before that happened. So there are so many scientific things, but these cannot be proven in the lab because these are beyond science. Sometimes people cannot really go and, oh, tell me how it can happen. I'll give you a test in the lab. So
Right.
that is why Dharmaraja's, all the intuitions I feel very genuine, and because they are elevated.
Yeah, absolutely. Mic is not on.
So I remember Barbara telling us right after, the 2001, that is, 9/11. Uh, so fear and hope and fear and love cannot live together. So you have to follow hope and faith, and that's the only thing. So if you give way to fear, nothing is going to change. It's going to only get worse. So I think for success, to get away from that, we need to give up fear. I mean, that there is no other hope.
Okay, Sairam. I agree. I think when, not that I don't have any fears, but I have to say not many times because when people keep saying fear, fear in my head, I'm thinking, why fear? I don't know. Because if you really like, there are times, of course, I'm scared of snakes, but but doesn't stop me from going into like forests or hiking or whatever, knowing fully that they will be there. So a little bit, but not, it doesn't dominate my thoughts a lot of times, because I don't think in terms of fear. I think more in terms of trust and faith, because I'm always, every step you take is only like, okay, Baba, I feel like he's there with you all the time. So no, if something were to happen, it'll happen anyway. What is it that I can do physically to prevent it? And nothing. I'm not that powerful to stop things from happening. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen. So whatever happens, happens at the time, and you take it from there and go with the flow. So I think it'll only come as your faith will strengthen. The more it strengthens, the less fears you will have. And this is, I'm talking with full conviction. Yeah.
Yeah, I know about
the-
the conviction.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
please continue.
opposite of faith is fear. Opposite of fear is faith, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I have
absolutely.
heard the opposite of fear is love. Love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
love,
Yeah.
correct,
Love.
love.
yeah.
That if love and if we have faith and that things will be taken care of, there is no fear. And the problem is we think we are in control. So that leads to all kinds of fear because things go out of control or not in our way. Since we believe we are in control, we we have the fear creeping up. If once we surrender and have faith that whoever you believe in will take care of everything, no matter what happens, whatever the result may be, you take it. So then there won't be any fear in.
Yeah, so I don't know about having no fear at all. Yes.
At that point,
Yeah,
at least.
please give Jyoti the phone, mic, please. Yeah, that's what I was. I know, I didn't see.
No, I just want to agree with you that fear will come if you don't have Sharanagati. That's the number one thing. Is I'm sure Dharma Raja had it, but Krishna, I think, being God, was a different example. We have to depend on our own self or God within us, and try to not be fearful.
Sairam.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share.
Please.
Once a Swami's student was, after graduation, he was worried what will happen to him. He has not gotten a job. Swami has not said what will
Yeah.
happen. So then he said, Swami, I'm worried. Then Swami says, why are you worried? Swami, I've not gotten a job. I don't know what I'm going to do. Fear of future. Then he said, do you see that mountain there? He said, yeah. Do you see a tree there? And he said, yeah. On that tree, can you believe that there will be lot of ants and small bugs and insects? He said, yes. And who do you think is feeding them?
Yeah.
Okay, then he didn't have an answer. When I am taking so many millions of this small living things, don't you think I will take care of you?
Right.
So that was his question. So always our fear is only based on comparing with others and relatively comparing and then saying, oh, what if? That's the
But
question.
but just to continue that story, he did not get direction from Swami for 3 whole years. Okay. And no, I mean, and there are many times that he said he was not sure, what the plan is. And a couple of times Swami reminded him to have patience. After that, that also was stopped. So he thought he did something wrong, and and obviously living in the world is not easy. And that is where I'm going with this. I mean, yes, I agree. And just like, Arvind always gives us that story, of Krishna, when Krishna says that is a crow, Arjuna doesn't even look up. Okay. Whereas he took a picture and he's showing to Swami, and Swami says, that's the moon. He says, no, no, Swami, that is the sun. So he argues about it. And later on, he realizes how he was thinking he wants to be Arjuna, but he doesn't have the minimum, faith in saying, okay, if Swami said this is the moon, this is the moon. That's it. But so those kind of things, that's where we need to kind of build. Of course, these are all stories and nice to listen to, but when it happens to us, and I am top of that list, where I will go and I will just be like, Swami, what is this? Tell me direction, otherwise I can't sleep. I won't let you sleep. So I've done that to him multiple times, and multiple times I have had to wait. But that was a different wait, because it has changed me internally, and I can say that for sure that it happened. It's a slow progress, and everyone has to follow their own.
I just wanted to continue.
Yeah.
So when Swami says, when students,
Yeah,
when Swami says wait, that means they just wait.
I
They,
know.
they don't ask next time to Swami. Swami, I said, and then you asked me to wait.
Yeah.
Should I wait? Continue. All those things. When he says wait, that means wait. It could be next minute. It could be 1 year. It could be 10 years.
Yes.
But just wait.
Yeah.
So that time frame is not in the thing. So because he's Kalatita. So that is the thing. So he's beyond time. Only we
Swami is,
are.
yeah.
Swami is beyond time.
Right.
So we are time bound. That is the difference. So when he says wait, it could be so many lifetimes too. We don't know. So we are only connecting. We are only
That is
looking
long.
at it because in our time frame, when comparing it to others, we want it to happen in the next week, next month, next few months, because that's what we expect.
Right.
That's where the difference
Absolutely.
comes.
Yep.
Just add one point to what Venkat just said. Uh, you know, Finally it comes to the spirit of why we are here. Um, Whenever we have a desire, as long as we have the desire, the desire will be satisfied. So it may take many, many, many lives for the desire to be satisfied. So, uh, so when we say wait, it could be indefinite. Whatever you desire will happen. It may take 100 lives before it happens. So you need to really focus on the fact that we have to get rid of the desires.
Whatever you desire, negative connotations can also happen. Yeah.
Will happen and will go through multiple lives.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Manoji.
So I was talking about getting connected. One is connected in any form with bhakti, with gyan, with devotion, and even with the how yogis get connected with yoga. When they have we not heard and seen that people? I was talking to one of the friends the other day. How by yoga people get that kind of siddhis to get that they can make the things happen. How is that possible? It's all getting connected. It's all getting connected. It's different that siddhis can be harmful, they can be misused. That's a different story. But I was just trying to emphasize the point of having Sharanagati, having faith, and having getting connected. Anything will be, it's basically a similar thing.
Yeah, makes sense. So I have a lot of questions here. I mean, not that it is, I don't know if this is worth discussing, but definitely these are questions that came and I just wrote it down because I didn't have time to go back and review everything. So basically, how does so spiritual leadership is a new word that is always coming in nowadays, even in management. So when they talk about spiritual leadership, there are things like service, servant leader. Those are terms that are used in spiritual leadership nowadays. And I think a lot of Swami students have talked about spiritual leadership in terms of how big is your vision, how small how small is your thought, as in the thought of I, your personal growth versus the growth of the growth of the organization. So with that, I mean, does this chapter kind of reflect anything like that about Dharmaraja for you? The role of spiritual leadership that Dharmaraja is supposed to have. I mean, that's what he's known for. He is known for his qualities of oneness, of being so true and following the right action at all times.
So this is the new terminology as we
Yes.
know coming up lately, because they have started to realize the importance of morality and spirituality in our daily life. It used to be a part of everyone's daily affairs in those days, which we have somehow lost over last 5,000 years, and which is coming up again, being an important part of life.
Yeah.
That's why they are emphasizing more on it, because there is something missing. So people are realizing there is something missing beyond the materialistic things. Something is missing. That's
Right.
why they are trying to find out that particular element, which
So-
used to be a part of life anyways.
Right. And in this whole chapter, actually, they talk about when they started locking their houses. Putting a lock on their house was a bad omen, according to the king. That did not, I mean, for him, it was not a good thing that you locked your house.
That actually I agree with Manoj. It was actually when they describe these different religions like Hinduism, how Buddhism evolved, how it was combined with Taoism in Chinese. Hinduism was not, just a faith. It is not that. It's part of life. It was a culture. It is how people lived. It is so.
Yeah.
That's why it's carried for so many thousands of years. Because how the things that our parents teach, they taught from their parents, their parents, their parents. Right? You get up in the morning. You get up before sunrise. You do the sun salutation. You do the puja. You do this. This is all Hinduism. It is not. It's so inculcated in daily life. It's part of your living, actually. And we lost it, like Manoj said, with modern days. Suddenly they thought, oh, it's okay to get up late. I'm so tired. I'm too busy partying. I can't. So they lost that cultural part of it was also lost. So that's what I think with all the blessing of the internet, of course, there's many curses, but the blessing is the knowledge is permeating, reaching everyone. And this is a great opportunity. I think some people are taking, and I'm glad the corporate industry is getting into it, is to bring it back and make it part of your life. And then that will only lead to good things.
See, Dharmaraja was upset they are locking the doors. This reminds me of one time we went to Shankar's aunt and uncle who lived in Warangal. And in that little bit away from the city, I suppose, or near the station, they said we don't lock the doors because the bandits will come and knock it down anyway. And if the door is locked, they get so mad, you lose more than you want to lose. So that is also true that they don't lock the door. Okay, that is the modern story. Okay, the other one is, I want to say how can we balance worldly duties with our spiritual journey? This story, of course, my favorite, Savapriyananda said once that he was traveling in the midnight, waiting for the plane in a small airport. So that security officers, they were there, they were getting bored and they saw this Swamiji, they said, please tell us something, what we can do. Give us a talk. So he said, what can I talk at this 2 a.m. in the airport? But then he thought of something. He asked that officer, do you have faith? Do you have favorite God you worship? He said, yes, every morning, Hanumanji, I worship before I leave, and then I come to work. So he said, okay, then think about it. Whenever you check a passenger, comes through the line, and then you think of that as a God himself and offer in your mind a puja, like a one flower, and then let him go. So that officer was so happy. He said, oh, day in, day out, I can do puja to Hanumanji. Yes. So the same way we can offer mentally, treat everybody as a godly being, even when we are working. Maybe the doctors can see them as patients, as a godly being, that will help probably.
Okay, sorry, Sairam. This has been great. Thank you so much for participating. We will continue our discussion next week. We are at time. So let's just end with Om and three Shantis. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you.